You're listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Heather Angel, and I've been helping people tune into what lights them up and increase their personal and professional performance for over a decade. Now I'm best known as a high-performance coach, helping entrepreneurs like you cut through the noise and create a business and life on your terms. If you're ready to step out of struggle and discover how simple it can be to create a fulfilling, joyful, and successful business without all the overwhelm and long hours, you're in the right place. Welcome, gorgeous. I hope you're well. This episode potentially could be a difficult listen. It's going to be short and it's going to be packed full of resources for you. But we are going to be talking about racism today. And as a British white woman, I have seen what happens in other countries, especially in America. I've watched the documentaries, I've seen the programs, I've seen the news reports, and I've always thought, oh my goodness, that's terrible. That's awful. How can that country be like that? And then I've done nothing about it. I've just sat with my white privilege and gone, oh, those poor people, felt a bit of sympathy, but thought, well, I'm not racist, so that's my job done. As long as I'm not a racist person and I would never discriminate against someone because of their colour, that's enough. I've done my bit. That's so far away from the part we need to play. Now, I'll be honest, when the George Floyd murder happened, and being on Instagram and being on entrepreneurial circles, it struck with me so much that I did not know anything about racism. I didn't know anything about the terrible conditions Black people have had to endure in the UK. I think it's very easy to see racism as one of those things that happens over there, somewhere else. I mean, we're bombarded with, documentaries from the US about racism and things that are happening over there. And it takes something to actually go, well, is this happening in my own country? And I didn't even see it. We see the odd, the odd news story, and, the story of Stephen Lawrence is something that's, it's a famous race killing here in the UK. But they're not, almost like everyday occurrences over here. And I honestly just thought, oh, well, we're not that racist over here. And honestly, I have really been ashamed of my ignorance. And in the week that it really started to hit home, the whole world, because we're in this pandemic situation, the whole world, I feel, was in a place where they could actually take notice. We weren't busy rushing from one place to the other. The world is on pause, which, quite honestly, I feel like this is the time that real change can happen, because the world is on pause. We have actually got the opportunity to look at this, to make the changes, to dive deeper, to look at our own blind spots, because we have got to make change happen this time. It's just disgusting that even the topic of racism is being debated. It's like, it needs to stop, but also we need to educate ourselves. And I am not recording this podcast from a place of, oh, I've got all the solutions and all the answers, because I don't. I'm still listening. I'm still learning. I am on such a steep learning curve. It's ridiculous. And that is what I encourage you to do. If you are a white person, or do you know what, if you're a person of any colour, listen to this, but especially if you are a white person, we have got to educate ourselves on the Black history of Britain. I have been shocked reading a book called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. It's by Rennie Edo-Lodge. And she explains things that have happened in not too long ago. Like, we're talking in the 70s, in the 80s. Horrific race crimes, terrible police brutality, and even going back to the 1800s, when you're looking at slavery, when you're looking at, I didn't know that Bristol was a major dock port for slave trade. I had no idea, because I was not taught this in school. I was taught, my recollection of what I was taught about slavery, I remember we watched a documentary, not a documentary, an educational film made about slavery, but it wasn't anything to do with England. We had nothing to do with it. It was about how slaves were taken from Africa and they were taken to America on these awful boats, and it was a very bad time, but it's all okay now because we don't have slavery anymore. That was abolished. And that was it. That was my education about how black people were used as slaves. That's it. Nothing about how we use them in the UK, nothing about how we use them in the colonies, nothing how we actually built the strength of Britain on black bodies. I didn't learn any of that in school, and I nearly swore then, but I'm annoyed. Like, why on earth is that not part of the curriculum? Why do we only have white history? I mean, it's something I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. I'm actually going to homeschool my children, which I know is a controversial issue in itself. Not everyone agrees with that idea, but I'm going to because, well, for many, many reasons, but black history is going to be part of their curriculum. They need to learn things that it's taken me 38 years to start learning about. And I mean, this book that I've just recommended, I'll put it in the show notes. Absolutely read it, especially if you're here in the UK. I mean, if you're in anywhere in the world listening to this, it's such a great read. Harrowing at some points, and honestly, my jaw just dropped going, how did this happen? Oh my God, like so many times, even in the first few chapters, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to literally absorb this book to my core because it's enlightening in all areas that I feel like I should have known about. And another thing I will say is if you're listening to this episode and you're still not really getting it, maybe you just think, well, I'm not racist. What has this got to do with me? It has everything to do with us. It has everything to do with us. And I am not recording this episode to in any way cast shame or make you feel guilty or judge yourself, because I did that for a week. I felt flipping horrendous, like sick to my stomach that I had been part of the problem as a white person, not even seeing my own privilege. Oh, that was hard. And if you're listening to this podcast, you are probably well in the world of personal development, and we're used to looking inwards. We're used to having a look at our blind spots so we can improve them, so we can be better entrepreneurs, so we can make more money, so we can be better beings, so we can do and be better. And I had never, ever even heard of the term white privilege until about 3 weeks ago. So I highly recommend you read the book, and I encourage you to lean into the discomfort because it is not going to be comfortable. Okay, we have got to do something. As I said at the beginning, I don't have all the answers. I'm using the platforms that I have. I'm using this podcast. I'm using my Instagram. I'm using the conversations with my clients. I'm doing what I can to raise awareness, and that's the stage I'm at the moment, just to take some action. And I will be looking into working with people and listening to the right people in order to make sure that my company grows as a company that is diverse. And, just as a side note, if for all you parents that are listening as well, once I've opened my eyes to this, I went through my kids' books. We were tidying up their room, and I realised there is not a brown face anywhere to be seen in a single one of their books. Not one black person has been illustrated in any of their books. Everyone's white. I mean, I'm like, how has that happened? And some of these books are about like groups of kids at school, and you'll have like maybe one token child that I suppose is supposed to be Asian, and maybe that's it. This is ridiculous. I could not believe that this has even happened. How in 2020 are we having to have the conversation now that, the population of this country is not being represented? I see it all the time now, and I never did because white people look like me. So I will watch TV shows, I will read books, and I won't even think about the fact that, there's not a diverse looking range of people because they all look like me. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what my world looks like. I mean, how flipping messed up is that? We have got to change. And the ridiculous thing is, I'm now Googling books with Black people in them so that my kids actually have a variety of books, they start seeing a cross-section of the population of this country. And it's just, I find that really sad, actually, that and I don't think these authors or illustrators are doing it intentionally. They're probably, would never class themselves as racist or anything like that, but we're doing it unconsciously. We have been brought up with just white privilege all around us in every aspect of our social system, in every part of our country. And yeah, I mean, just going through their books just shocked me. I was like, oh my goodness, how can I start teaching them about racial diversity and everything they've got around them is white? It's about white people, white kids. And yeah, it's just not good enough. Absolutely not good enough. So once you start opening your eyes to this, you will realise actually Black people are not represented enough anywhere, in all pockets of society, in literature, in our TV shows. I mean, certainly in politics for sure. So I said this is going to be a short episode, so I just want to give you some resources. As I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm doing what I can with the platforms that I have to raise awareness. That's the stage I'm at. If I have any breakthroughs, or if I start working with, an amazing person within my company to help me be diverse, which will happen, I will of course share that as this goes on. And please reach out to me. If you have other resources, I would love to know. Please contact me on Instagram. Let me know who you're following. There are some incredible leaders, incredible Black leaders, really sharing from the heart on Instagram. And, their stories have been shocking and upsetting and have made me really freaking angry. But they're doing so from a place of so much compassion for us flipping white people who have been so blind to this. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. So, if you know of an amazing person that you're learning from, let me know. Send me a DM in Instagram. The other resources I want to give you, just start off with the book that I mentioned, Why I'm No Longer Speaking to White People About Race. And that is by Reni Eddo-Lodge. And I'll put her link in the show notes. Also, look up an amazing lady called Nova Reed. I'll put her Instagram handle in the show notes as well. She has done an incredible TED Talk on racism, and it just explains it so beautifully because, well, do you know what? Just watch it. I'm not going to go through and explain it, but just watch it. The way she explains these tiny little, what you would class as maybe subtle acts of racism, which you maybe not even picking up on right now. Watch her TED Talk. It is really, really powerful. And also she is an activist and a race educator, and she's well worth following on Instagram and reaching out to if you are looking to help your company be more diverse. And also watch a documentary called 13th on Netflix. It's tough watching, okay? But you need to watch it. It's not about the UK. It is about America primarily. But there are definitely some similarities that we can draw. And we need to educate ourselves. We need to see the uncomfortable. We need to lean into it and start doing something, start taking some action. I'm doing what I can that I know of that I can do, using my platforms, using my podcast, having conversations, raising the awareness. I'm looking into what else I can do. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is just take that step. So if you've seen everything that's been going on with the protests and you've been watching it on the news, which, by the way, the news is skewing it. They're not even talking about the real issue. They're thinking, oh, Black man got murdered in America and now we've got riots. Oh, and our poor statues are being graffitied. Like, they're not even talking about the core issue. Now, I am not condoning any of the violent protests. I'm not condoning any of the, the vandalism. We need, that's not even, it's taking away from the root cause. And this is the problem. The media are then taking it to talk about statues. I'm like, we're not talking about statues. We're talking about the rights of Black people and the fact that the history is completely hidden. So yeah, look for different sources. Mainstream media is not going to be the most useful way of finding your information. Really do your research, really do some digging, seek out the truth. So those are my recommendations for you to get started. And as I said, I would love for you to let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, the books you're reading, the people you're speaking to that are helping you educate yourself about racism. And we need to all play a part. However that part looks to you, whatever platform you're going to use, we all need to play our part. So I needed just to record it. We need to talk about this. I hope it's been useful. Check out the show notes for the links that I mentioned, and I will see you on next week's episode. Thank you for listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation or have a question that you would like answered in an upcoming episode, head over to Instagram and connect with me at Heather Angel Coaching. If you enjoy this podcast, please share your thoughts in a review on iTunes. I truly value your feedback and I take the time to read every single review. Have a beautiful week and I'll see you in the next episode.